Right, so good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this GSA Sourcing Tech event. My name is Kerry Hallard and I'm the Chief Exec of the Global Sourcing Association. And it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you here today to discuss all things IoT. So what the GSA has been doing for the last 18 months is running a series of events which we call Sourcing Tech. And that's looking at different technologies and the impact they're actually having on our industry. So we've covered all subjects, artificial intelligence most recently, virtual reality, blockchain, whole host of different technologies. Today's focus is on IoT. I would really like to make this a fully interactive session. So as and when you've got any questions, please do put your digital hands up or put comments in the chat. I will be reviewing those and ensuring that all questions are answered from our subject matter experts. I am not the subject matter expert, so let me introduce you to those that are. So first up, I'd like, Alicia, if you could just briefly introduce yourself, that would be great.
Sure, thanks, Kerry. Hi, everyone. Great to be on this call today. I'm Alisha Mittal. I'm a practice director with Everest Group, and I lead our research on applications and digital services at Everest Group. And I have a particular focus on IoT and have been tracking this market for a fairly long period of time now. Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia. And Neven, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Neven Stipčević. I am the co-founder and the CTO of Bulb Technologies, company from Croatia. We are on the market for the last 15 years with strong focus on the telco operators, automation around telcos, and of course, IoT is part of the story.
That's great. Thank you, Neven. And our last speaker is going to be Maskim. Maskim, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Maskim, head of Geosoftware and AI solutions in Intetics. I work in the IT industry for more than 10 years, and during my work experience, I provide different edge solutions to the different industries. And now today I will talk a little bit more about practical cases of IoT implementation in agriculture.
Fantastic. Okay, so those are our speakers. Please do ask questions of them. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with Alicia from Everest, who's going to give the analyst view of, where we are, what industries are doing, what's happening in different platforms, the art of the possible. And she's going to do all of that in about 15 minutes. So that's a tall challenge. And then we're going to hand over to Neven, who's going to actually do a demonstration of the platform they've developed at Bulb, which is phenomenal. And then we're going to move on, as Maskim said, to a case study that will actually detail what they've been doing at Intetics for an agricultural client. So, right, the stage is yours, Alicia. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Kerry. Just making sure, I hope everybody can see my slides. All right, assuming silence as yes. I'll take a quick moment to introduce my organization, Everest Group. Everest Group is a Dallas-based research and advisory firm focused exclusively on global sourcing industry, with over 30 years of experience supporting 500 plus service providers and many Fortune 50 enterprises globally. We focus on delivering data-driven insights and thought leadership to our clients. We support our clients in their journey to build robust strategies, address implementation challenges, optimize their processes, and help them validate their business decisions. All right, so with that, let's jump right into the topic for today, IoT. What I'm going to do is start with a very high-level introduction and the definition of what we mean by IoT. So IoT for us is a confluence of technologies bringing together machines, processes, assets, people, all of them in one place, essentially transforming these physical entities into virtual elements for the objective of enabling smarter business decisions. Now, I think I talked about a lot of jargons here, so let me break it down and simplify it. I'll deep dive into the smarter business decisions and the confluence of technologies over the next 12 to 15 minutes. Let's start with business decisions first. What is it that enterprises are trying to derive out of IoT as they invest in this technology? We have been speaking to a lot of our enterprise clients and surveying, understanding what they are trying to achieve out of IoT. Four broad categories of objectives that we see them focusing on. They're trying to optimize their business, engage with their clients better, integrate their businesses well, or they're able to, or they are trying to drive innovation via IoT. However, as we think about the past 12 to 18 months in specific, 43% of enterprises have been focusing on optimization as the key driver for investment in IoT. And when we say optimization, what you see towards the right, operational efficiency, cost reduction, productivity improvement, risk management. These are all the objectives that enterprises want to achieve as they embark on this journey of IoT adoption. Now let's do a little bit of double click to see how different enterprises perform, or what are the different characteristics that different enterprises, different industries demonstrate as we think about these four categories of objectives. What we are witnessing is, if we look at manufacturing and energy and utilities, which have traditionally been the leaders in IoT adoption with asset-heavy, businesses trying to connect those assets and remotely monitor them, etc. For them, operational efficiency, cost reduction, those continue to be the key driver for IoT adoption. However, what's really interesting is we see a lot of consumer-facing industries. Think about healthcare, think about retail, travel and transportation. These are the industries which were not the traditional leaders of IoT adoption, but the growth that we are seeing in these industries in terms of IoT adoption and interest in IoT is surpassing even the traditionally interested industries of energy and manufacturing. And as we look at these consumer-facing industries, we see a huge interest by these enterprises in focusing on stakeholder experience, business innovation, and of course, operational efficiency remains one of the key drivers underneath. But a lot of them are focusing on enhancing a stakeholder experience, which includes employees as well as their own customers. To further drill down on, hey, we talked about enterprises are trying to achieve this, that, all the operational objectives, et cetera. Now, what are the parameters that they take into consideration as they think about investing in IoT? There are two key themes that we witness. They are focusing on use cases that can deliver high impact in a short frame of time. So payback period should be low, the impact should be high. And that is how the decision of which use cases to target now versus later is being undertaken. Think about use cases like telehealth, supply chain tracking, remote asset management, for example. Essentially, all of those that you see at the green box, the right bottom corner, all of these and many more of the similar sort are geared towards ensuring business continuity. And over the past 12 to 18 months, this set of use cases has gained much more traction than any time in the past. Of course, as the world recovers from the pandemic, as enterprises have more cash reserves, as they start focusing towards more broader objectives, being driven from their IoT investments, that's when we expect them to move towards higher order and more complicated use cases like smart city, connected hospitals, and entire connected facility management, and so on and so forth. So, that's what I wanted to share from a business objective standpoint. IoT being used to achieve certain business objectives, primarily around cost optimization and ensuring more resiliency. Now, let's also talk about the first jargon that I mentioned, which was around confluence of technologies. What are these different technologies out there which we are seeing coming together to help enterprises realize these objectives? Now, while IoT in itself is a huge ecosystem of technologies, sensors, networks, platforms, this, that, all of it, But alone, that entire stack of IoT is also not enough. It requires support of capabilities coming in from edge computing, artificial intelligence and advanced analytics, immersive technologies like AR, VR, and even blockchain to be able to deliver on those higher order benefits that enterprises have now started to target via their technological investments. So essentially, the crux is nobody is buying IoT as, hey, let's invest in IoT. Everybody is thinking of what are my business objectives? I want to optimize my cost. So what can lead me to it? It can lead, so IoT by means of enabling better connectivity to my assets, better control on maintenance of those assets, combined with blockchain capabilities, maybe remote visibility of those via AR, VR, and advanced analytics. Together, all of these technologies together will help me realize that end objective. So nobody buys IoT as IoT, but they buy but everybody invests in or buys IoT as a business solution. Now, just to double click on each of these technologies that I'm mentioning and where or how we are seeing these come in as part of various IoT use cases. As per our survey, we're seeing a lot of interest and a lot of already scaled implementations where artificial intelligence is playing a big role in the IoT use cases. Edge computing, again, is something that's coming up very rapidly. Think about autonomous cars. They cannot function without edge computing. Blockchain, immersive technologies like AR, VR, those are other areas where we are seeing a lot of interest and POCs happening. However, large-scale implementations is something that's still a distance apart when it comes to IoT in confluence with blockchain and immersive technologies. Now, all of this that we have talked about, different technologies coming together, IoT being a complicated ecosystem, all of this it just complicates the heck out of an enterprise IT organization, right? And that's where enterprises needs to take an informed decision of which are the partners they need to go ahead with, who are the capability providers that they want to join hands with to be able to achieve this end business objective that they are targeting. One of the key capability providers that that are absolutely important in the IoT space are the platform providers. And if we look at the entire landscape of platform providers, again, that's a huge, complicated story in itself. There are the hardware providers, there are the cloud providers bringing their own platforms, the telecom providers, even the service providers bring in their own platform. But each of them bring in unique capabilities to build that end-to-end connected ecosystem. And that's a decision enterprises needs to take very, very cautiously of which are the capabilities that they need to source from which service providers, and how do they eventually build their entire stack of IoT capabilities and that end-to-end solution they are eventually targeting. So what you see on the screen here are just some of the leading providers that we are seeing out there in the market from different layers of that platform. Say the OT or the hardware vendors like ARM or the GE Predicts of the world, the cloud providers like AWS and Azure, obviously leading in the market, telecom providers like the ones from Jasper and Telit, or even, like I mentioned, service providers and some vertical specific niche specialist providers out there, providing very specific solutions to enable business value from the IoT investments. So essentially, enterprises needs to answer two broad questions: selection of the right partner, which includes services partner as well as the platform partners. And secondly, a very important question that enterprises need to solve for is, as they think about IoT, investing in IoT, how do they plan for scaling of these IoT implementations? Again, let me shed a bit more light on both of these aspects. As we look at the scaled adoptions out there in the market, we are seeing every enterprise leveraging at least two or more platform providers to be able to build their entire IoT stack. And when that happens, it's very important for enterprises to take a conscious understanding, a conscious investment of which platform fits in their ecosystem well, which are the ones that they can invest in such that they can also scale up with those capabilities. So a long-term vision of investment is what needs to be taken right up front. The second aspect to it is, as you think about those long-term investments, the talent part becomes very important. I think all of us would agree very strongly that there is a huge talent war going out there in the market, and that has just aggravated over the past 6 months. Now, in that scenario, what we've done is we calculated or we estimated the kind of demand supply gap that exists for various important technologies in the IoT market. And what we realized was AWS and Azure, while they are the highest in demand from an IoT cloud platform standpoint, they are also the ones where the demand supply gap is the highest. So as you go and invest in AWS IoT as your cloud platform for IoT implementations, you also need to think about now, how do you ensure scalability, which would require regular supply of talent and management and analytics and all of that. And that is where the key partner, the second set of key partners after the platform providers, comes into picture, which is your service partners. As we look at the services ecosystem, service partners essentially helping in system integration, application development, enabling maintenance, analytics, insights, all of those. That market is expected to grow at a massive, massive pace of 20 to 24%, which is much, much ahead of most of the other technologies out there in the market. And all of this is because enterprises would need support, not just for selection of these platform providers, but also implementation, maintenance, and further enhancement of the IoT investments that they've just made. I think I've spoken a lot. I would just want to close this part of mine by leave you with one last thought. When enterprises start thinking about IoT, they start thinking about it from a sensors and devices standpoint, which is your first step, connected things. Now, what we are seeing over the past 12 to 18 months, enterprises thinking a bit more broadly about connected people and processes, expanding their scope of influence from IoT beyond just connected assets or connected devices. However, the future or the real value from IoT will actually come from a more open, collaborated and connected ecosystem where it goes beyond your immediate business and your immediate organization, but also includes your partners, your suppliers, your warehouses, and even your customers. All of that connected ecosystem that builds a connected business in its true sense is what will deliver the true value that IoT stands to deliver. With that, I'd like to close my part of the presentation, and back to you, Kerry.
Okay, that was absolutely awesome. Thanks, Alicia. I have got some questions, but in the interest of time, I'm going to hold those to the discussion at the end, if that's okay. So, so thank you for that, Alicia. Neven, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Alicia, for the great introduction and the insight in the IoT today and tomorrow. I'm going to open our slide deck now. Just give me a second to share it with you. Hope everybody sees it. Okay. Yeah. So nothing much more to add on top of Alicia's insights and the presentation. It was really great. Where we are going to focus today is on, let's say, a small use case from the consumer IoT space, for which we heard that it's entering our lives more and more. And we're going to show you how to use our platform in a way to support efficiently growing IoT, but so it can be used by the service providers, telecoms, or the BPOs themselves. A few words about us, Bulb Technologies. As I said, we are present on the market for 15 years. We call ourselves a business automation company. Our focus for the last 15 years was around telco operators, big telco groups in the Europe mostly, where we deployed solutions for complete automation of the devices which their users are using for using broadband services and everything. So it's a bit already a connected business that we are supporting there. Telcos for sure today are the beacons of the technology they're using. So our platform is successfully used in automation of all those processes and interconnection with the let's say internet or IoT devices which are already there. So regarding the consumer IoT, where we are shifting now, let's see what or which opportunities does it bring. So what we learned is, let's say, consumer IoT devices can be divided into groups. So home devices like appliances, like the smart home in general, like entertainment devices, and everything which we use on daily basis in our homes. And then more personal devices, let's say maybe in size or the way we use them, which can be some voice assistants, smartphones, of course, but also health care devices, because we are seeing rapid growth in that segment in the IoT as well. So these IoT devices in consumer space are really growing in number. Prediction is that by 2025 is going to be almost 60 billion of those devices. Those devices will bring great insights to the customers, which buy them, of course, but they will also enable a complete new level of automation. As Alicia said, this connected business, or connected home or connected society, at the end of the day, it is slowly being step by step growing and enabling these new levels of automation that are coming. IoT space of vendors is really huge. So I would say hundreds of thousands of vendors of many sensors, equipment, etc. So it's going to be for sure a long time ahead of us, a multi-vendor environment, which brings challenges in terms of the platforms which enterprises will use, the integrations which are needed for creating the solutions on top of the IoT devices, etc. But for sure, it's going to be multi-vendor environment. Well, we can imagine from our day-to-day life, we like to live in commodity, not we, but the whole society, and it's really going further in this. We like everything to work smoothly. We don't want to see any issues, problems. But what happens when they occur? Who the users, if we are talking about consumer space, whom they're calling? So what we see today, as we said, for the last 15 years, we are working with telco operators. So I would say tens of thousands of agents in telco operators or the BPOs are using our platforms to serve day-to-day, I don't know how many calls. They're on the first line towards the end customers when they're reporting the issues for the telco services. But what we see really is that end users are calling telco providers for any issue that comes into the space of, let's say, connectivity or the devices that are connected to the internet. So never mind that, I don't know, some telco operator in some country is not manufacturer of PlayStation, but if PlayStation cannot connect or have some issues with PlayStation network, first line, which is called by the end users, is telco operator. And telco operator, can either say, okay, no, sorry, this is not in our scope of services. Issue is on the PlayStation, or I don't know, is in your game service provider, whatever. This will create a user which is not satisfied, and customer experience for sure will not be good. So what we see, and telcos are using our platform, is to empower the agents which are answering calls to be able to answer more and more calls and help their customers in many situations. So this is what we learned with our customers. But again, on the other side, if we are buying home appliances which are smarter, which are being connected more and more, when something goes wrong, you go into the menu, or you have some contact number or URL or phone number, whatever, and you call the manufacturer of this appliance. Again, mostly BPOs are serving these manufacturers. We can mention Samsung, Bosch, I don't know which other big great names, and need to provide some kind of service or support to the customers which have some issues with the equipment they bought from the vendor. So if these devices, appliances are connected, for sure, this can help in the process. As Alicia said, the IoT is really an enabler for not just for the insights, but also to automate processes, engage end customers, and provide new tools for fixing the issues and resolving the situation while the end user is calling. So wrap up. End users, if we are talking about if we are talking about the IoT devices, which by definition needs to be connected to the internet, end users will more and more for sure call service providers, telco operators, I mean, or the vendors or manufacturers. And I think that BPOs are in both segments serving both sides. So what our platform is and how our platform can help in the IoT segment, or in this, to be more precise, in support processes and automated troubleshooting of the IoT devices in the consumer IoT, which is coming. What we are offering, and it's already being used across our customer base, is a Cempresso solution or platform, which is we call it multi-vendor support environment that can integrate with any device from any vendor and provides guided workflows, automated diagnostics, troubleshooting, and complete, let's not just call it knowledge base, but provides processes which are automated, which can be fully machine-to-machine automated, or can involve agents or other people or experts in the process of troubleshooting. Why I'm going back always on the word troubleshooting, because this specific use case is really around it. As I said, what we provide to our customer base and thousands of agents in telco operators is we believe really perfect solution for automated troubleshooting of really complex services that telco operators are providing. One important thing for the BPOs and the telco operators, call centers in general, support services, is that with consumer IoT, for sure, more and more complexity is going towards the agents for them to be able to answer the calls properly, to be skilled, and to help the end user who is calling. And this cannot be, I would say, achieved with traditional methods of training, education, long time training, education, because agents are coming and going in the organization. They are not staying too long. This is something that we saw. So one needs to rely on the tool that they're using. With our solution, what we saw is really fast agent onboarding, and practically, I don't know, after a really short period of time, agents are able to answer the calls and perform troubleshooting and diagnostics through our tool. Consumer IoT will, of course, be around the proactive care segment or concept as well. Proactive care is approach would be, you need to collect the data. If we are talking about sensors, if we are talking about appliances that send some data, you need to collect it, analyze it, and once some KPIs are degraded, you can react or proactively act. You can call customer if this customer is purchasing some, I don't know, premium support service from the service provider, and help him to overcome this situation. Let me just go one slide back. When we mentioned telco operators being on the first line of the support in general for our society, I would say, digital society, what we are seeing is that service providers are introducing new support services. They call them premium support, gold support. I don't know how more. And they're offering this as a separate service to their customers, because they're of course trying to reach or find new ways for revenues. This is a really big challenge for them, and our platform is I would say helping them, or the BPOs as well, to be in the race of providing new services to their customers as well. If there are no questions at the current state, I would use this few minutes that I still have to show you really short example about from our platform. A second. I will log out now. So let's imagine that we are in the shoes of an agent who is working either at the BPO side or telco side. It's nevertheless. So what I'm showing you is the application, our platform, which supports, I would say, any type of troubleshooting, any type of, we call it domain, or the segment for which the agent is responsible. So for example, this agent, me, is skilled for answering calls for telco operators, mobile operators, or cable operators for troubleshooting the connectivity service, which is, I would say, in the consumer IoT space, basic one. This should be working. And for the sake of this demo, we added, we call it Internet of Things domain, where we played a little bit with our system and tried to design some really small short demo how the agent can be capable of troubleshooting some consumer IoT devices, I would say in the near future. This is coming for sure. It's not the question whether this should happen, but only when. So let's type in, I don't know, some identifier of the user who is calling. We are opening our dashboard, and in this very moment, separate automation processes are running around the network and collecting the data from the devices and trying to find automatically issues and guide the agent in this session towards the end customer. So here you can see we always provide some really nice, we call it network map, with some indicators in color, and it provides a network of connected devices which can be subject of automated troubleshooting and present some, let's say, smart home of the end customer. So we have a router, which is of course the basic device for the connectivity. We have some access point, which is usually in the home, and many devices connected to it, and sending some data or providing APIs for the processes of troubleshooting. We mentioned that data collection is an important part of IoT troubleshooting space. Yes, it is. So we, as a part of our system, is a big data, let's say, subsystem, which is capable of collecting vast amounts of data from any device and store it and analyze it, and providing this 360 visibility on the subject of troubleshooting. This is, for this demo, this is really some kind of, let's say, smart home, and user is calling. But you can imagine also enterprises which are really closely working with the consumers and providing some services on top of IoT devices, where the agents or BPOs serving those enterprises can serve calls and provide premium support for the end users which need some kind of assistance. So I mentioned multi-vendor. So let's go on the left-hand side. Our system has really great integration capabilities, which is proved in a really large telcos around Europe. So here we can monitor something from the Sony PlayStation. This is an entertainment device in the house. I'm not going to go in technical details now, but just to give you a picture about this multi-vendor environment. There is a router, which is maybe, I don't know, from Huawei. We randomly choose the vendors for this demo. We are not preferring any of them, but just to show you that with this tool, we can really integrate multi-vendor environment in the single view, because when end user buys consumer IoT things, as I mentioned, for sure vendors will provide some kind of applications. But when we reach some really critical number of different vendors and applications, it's much more easier to have a single view on all the devices. Or you can imagine telco operator or BPO with a great number of agents. For sure, some unified view is mandatory. So let's pick one of these. Panic light in the house. Important thing to monitor is battery level. So there is really no limit in which devices can be troubleshooted. And for the agent's sake, of course, there are tools for each and every IoT device to either guide the end user with some traditional methods. For example, if this end user still needs to connect the device to the monitoring system, or I don't know, we can pick any other tool and change some parameters on the device itself if it provides an API for that. I'm telling you again, this is maybe a really near future. It's not the question of whether this will happen. For sure it will, because we all want to live in a world without issues, and we want really premium support when we encounter problems in our everyday lives. I don't know whether I have missed something, but really empowering agents and making them capable of answering different types of calls and troubleshooting different types of services, devices. This is what our platform is capable of. So
thank you, Neven. Thank you.
I don't know whether I managed to bring you our vision and picture. I hope, and I'm available, of course, for any question if you have.
No, you absolutely have. Thank you very much. That really shows the art of the possible. And as a consumer, I want it, and I want it now. But probably have to wait a bit. Right, we'll come on to questions in a minute if we can. We would really now like to pass the mic over to our last speaker. So Maxim, if you would like to take the floor, and then Neven will come back to questions for you shortly. If not, they'll go in the box. So obviously Alicia's been answering the questions that she's been posed. So any questions for Neven, please do that. And Neven, there is a question that looks at devices and warranties. So I think that one probably is a good one for you to answer if you could in the chat. So Maxim, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kerry. Thank you, Neven. So let's take a look on my part. So are you able to see my screen? Is everything okay?
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, hello everyone. Today I want to tell you about the prospects and practical application of IoT and machine learning in agricultural domain. During my presentation, I will cover the following topics. Why the use of the Internet of Things in agriculture is promising. Go through the main challenges of the industry, and we will cover the practical application of Internet of Things and machine learning in agriculture using a real example from one of our clients. So why is the use of the Internet of Things in agriculture promising? According to the latest report from M2M and IoT applications, the global market for precision agriculture demonstrates an annual growth rate of 6 and 8% and will reach about 3 and 7 billion in 2025. And the number of IoT devices in the industry is growing every day, actually. Let's look at areas in agriculture for which the use of different types of sensors in conjunction with the analytical power of artificial intelligence will bring the most benefits, such as precision farming, crop management, livestock tracking. It includes the positional tracking, behavior patterns, and health tracking, remote sensing, equipment tracking, irrigation, and the most new and modern IoT division, it's a greenhouse. So what are the challenges facing agriculture today? There are lack of data. Sorry. There are lack of data to make informed decisions, high risk of wasted harvest, high response time for adapting and mitigating negative effects, high cost of fields processing, lack of automation of traditional farming processes, high time for analysis and decisions. To summarize, farmers and agricultural corporations want to grow more quality products for less money, and actually IoT can help them with this. So let's look at the application of IoT technologies with a real example. During the last 3 years, we developed a big web-based solution for one of the leading European agriculture companies. They need to develop a web-based solution that will allow to get insights from the fields, combine all of the data together, facilitate analysis process, and help to make adequate decisions. And exactly in the middle of this, the reduce of operational costs was their main task. And for this request, we have developed and implemented a cloud system that allows them to collect information about the state of crops using sensors and drones. Established a LoRaWAN network to provide communication between sensors and servers. And we have developed a huge number of machine learning models that predict crop dynamics based on its type. So let's move forward. And we start to discuss the practical solution from the ground level, and then we will go through each of the level to the cloud-based solution. So the ground monitoring system consisted of 308 IoT stations located in 48 fields. For this project, we use like 60% of stations from the market and 40% of stations we had to develop by our own, because we need like custom stations that allow to monitor custom crop types and to solve custom challenges from our client. For example, one of the challenges is calculation the amount of oranges on the trees, and for this task we develop sensors with cameras that allow to count the amount of oranges on the trees with the use of the computer vision, and we make it like more than 2 times precisely that human eyes can do this. So here's an example of what a sensor network looks like from the perspective of an agronomist who makes decisions. Each point is a separate sensor, and the user can switch the indicators that are currently displayed. So by indicators, I mean what insights he wants to get right now. Will it be the oxygen level on the field, or the level of pH? All of these could be switched and monitored. So in general, if we talk about ground sensor, the launch of the sensor monitoring system made it possible to collect historical data, analyze each field using 16 different parameters, provide spot monitoring of individual areas of the field, develop automatic field cartogram generation, analyze field data for the further crop planning. But while providing a large amount of accurate point information, the ground-based system has the disadvantage of providing an overall picture for each field. And to address this challenges, drones came to our aid. So we have used various models of drones with electric and diesel engines. In addition to the introduction of drones, one of the challenges has been the development of custom drone equipment, such as sprayers, camera mounting systems, and much more. because there were no solutions on the market that could solve the specific challenges of our client. So actually the direction of equipment development is still demanded by customers. And if you want to take it, you're welcome. Let's look about on the several examples of drone tasks. So one of the most typical and important tasks that was solved is vegetation health analysis by detecting oppressive plants and identify areas which need additional treatment. We provide regular drone monitoring with like orthophoto and make post-processing of the data to provide analysis and detect issues on the field. And actually, in general, it's allow our client to increase in yield by 10% and sharing treatment cost because they don't need to provide people that should go by cars on the fields and monitor the situation. They just need to look on the pictures, process it pictures actually, and see what problem is and how they could act with this problem. The next case is automatical recognition of sugarcane planting rows and flowers. It's actually the task that need to be processed before automatical harvesting for the sugar cane because different harvesters have different requirements for the deviation of flows of planting rows. So in case of our client, it was not more than 10 centimeters. And if we have this issue, we need to adjust the program for automatical harvesting. And actually, the implementation of these analytics allow to increase harvesting volume for the sugar cane. And for sure, let's talk about the heart of the developed system is a cloud-based web application that allow to extract insights from the collected information. The work of the analytical core is provided by 92 machine learning models designed for predicting the growth of various crops. In addition, the system provides a powerful graphical interface that allows to monitor the current situation in the fields and make decisions based on the forecast. For example, right now on the screen, you see the cartogram. It's automatically generated visual component for visual analysis that allow agronome not to look actually on the values provided for each sensor, but to look on the picture for entire field in general. So he sees the separation of pH level on the ground, and based on this, he allowed to make decisions. For example, to provide some additional mineralization and fertilizers on the point, only on that point that require this. For example, in our case, it's right down corner where we have the acid level of pH. So it should be, you should make it a little bit softer than it is. And actually, let's talk about the results that we have. In general, this solution allows our client to reduce time for analysis and decision making by almost in 3 times. Reduce the transportation costs up to 40% because they don't need to send people for monitoring. Use of fertilizers, pesticides, and consumables reduced to 42% because you don't need to cover entire field. You know exactly where you need to do this. Reduce the amount of human effort up to 50%. Reduce the crop losses through disease and adverse weather up to 23%. Disease detection and elimination time was decreased up to 74%. And all of these goes to increases in cost saving, crop yield, crop prediction, and crop quality. And our client want to expand more and more because he sees the real value of IoT and machine learning implementation in the agricultural domain. So he want to invest additional money in this, and we hope to cover the expansion of IoT to additional fields in another countries all over the world for this client in Africa region, European region, and much more. Of course, the application of IoT and machine learning are not limited to the agricultural industry only. We also see prospects for use of these technologies in the following areas, such as construction and real estate, public infrastructure management, automotive and manufacturing, healthcare, energy, oil and gas, transportation and logistics, and media. For most of these industries, the goal is to provide the prediction maintenance in the industries or provide additional prediction based on the analytics of current situation. So if you want to know more or want to know some opinion on one of these topics, you feel free to ask any questions. And for sure, thanks for watching.
That's great. Thank you very much, Maxim. I think it really gives a very interesting example of the benefits of IoT. I don't know how many of us are actually working in agriculture. I'm guessing not many, but we all understand, the farming industry and the challenges that they face. So to see an excellent case study that's delivering such phenomenal results is really great. And it gives us an idea about the art of the possible for all things IoT, as does the platform. So I'm familiar with the Tesla, and what that does blows my mind. So the fact that we could actually be communicated across loads and loads of different brands within the household, and it all comes through to your mobile phone, what might be going wrong or can all be solved, is mind-blowing as to what the art of the possible is. So thank you both very much for your case studies. We've got only a couple of minutes of questions. I've seen obviously quite a lot going on in the chat, and the one that I wanted to pick up on is the Common Communication Standards. So Alicia, I know you've put some comment on that. Do you want to explain, maybe bring that one to life a little bit more?
Sure. So as I was mentioning in the comment and the question from Hill was, what is the limitation or the need exactly from having for having a common communication platform? So while that might be the nirvana stage that we want to achieve at, which will just simplify the entire communication and simplify the entire adoption of IoT to a large extent, it's not as easy as it sounds like, right? There are high heat situation, extreme cold chain, extreme cold situations. There are diverse kind of scenarios in which IoT needs to be adopted within a similar use case, right? If a product is being transported, say from China all the way in a shipment to North America, it undergoes a lot of different changes from a pressure, from a weather, from temperature, humidity, all of that. So the different scenarios that exist, that in itself creates a very difficult situation for one single communication protocol to be able to address all the different situations, different use cases, as well as different scenarios. Therefore, what we believe is we should not essentially try and achieve that nirvana stage and try and work, continuously keep working. Of course, there needs to be a continuous work towards adopting and research and investment into achieving the final a better state. Having said that, I think the various options that exist right now, they give a lot of flexibility to mix and match and enable the right use case, and enable delivery of value from those combinations and permutations of protocols as well.
Thank you. Did Neven or Maxim have any additional views on that from your experiences of implementation?
Yeah, sure. If I can also contribute a little bit, I will just share a screen which I think is going to help for this story. So what we are seeing in the telco operators is not really a common protocol or interface to all the equipment, and in the IoT space, it's even more complex. But with our platform, we are providing our data collection microservices stack. So you can imagine we have a microservice which communicates to each and every different device and therefore creates the same picture for the upper layers. So this nirvana state that Alicia mentioned, I think it's most important to be achieved on the upper layer, on the presentation layer, towards the end users, towards the service providers, but the complexity will always be there. And we are addressing this complexity with really flexible data collection framework where we can connect any type of device with any through any protocol.
That's great. Thank you for that. Right, we are out of time, so I'm just going to ask each of you one question. Is, what's your projection for when we're going to see this as mass adoption and the art of the possible becomes reality? So I'll go with you first, Neven, because you're right in front of me right now.
Okay, thanks. As I said, we are really working with telco operators on a big level, on a big scale, and we are seeing this slowly coming in. Regarding the broader range of IoT devices, I think first step would be really, let's say, vertical integration with the manufacturers, vendors. I think Alicia can maybe add some more on this, but I don't know. I'm seeing Luke here. Luke, do you have something to add? You are talking to our end customers on daily basis, so what are you hearing from them?
I mean, if Kerry authorized me to say a word, hi to everyone. Yes, we are definitely currently talking to large companies that are implementing a way to support IoT device, no matter where they're coming from. So if it's electronics, if it's from not agriculture, but from a different, various angles, and they do have an issue right now, really, to collect that information and to pass it on to support them. So in the BPO or the sourcing assets, I mean the sourcing part of the business, and it is really interesting. The growth, millions of devices will be connected shortly, so we're just going to have to support them. So it is definitely a booming sector for the next couple of years. That's about it. We are in deep discussion with large service provider for this.
Yeah, very exciting. Okay, thank you, Luke, and thank you, Neven. Maxim, obviously a great case study for agriculture. How many case studies have you got like this? And what's your the realistic view on demand?
So actually, I agree with Neven that it's a domain that is really grown so fast during the last couple of years, and actually we already have a ton of IoT devices in different industries, such as automotive, on the example on Tesla, that has more than 100 different sensors inside of it, and more than 8 neural networks that control all of these sensors and actually provide decisions on the self-driving. Also, we have really fast growing in the agriculture and mining industry, and the main, I think, challenge on the current state is the connectivity of all of these devices, because IoT itself established more than 10 years ago, and during this a lot of different companies develop different devices, develop its own protocols, so it's hard to combine together. So for now it's more industry related protocols, software, like cloud systems for aggregation and all of these. And if you need to go through and develop some solution for such of these industries, you need to deep dive into their standards that include not only the connectivity, but security standards itself, and it could be very, very different. And all of this bureaucracy and historical data is actually the biggest challenge right now that don't allow us to connect all of these devices fast and make all of this information that work together and provide insight. And I think Alicia could add some more on this.
Yep. Sure, Maxim, thanks for that. And you mirrored my thoughts. I was about to say the same, that there are lots of hurdles. While I talked about selection of the right partner and making sure the talent is available, just from a technology stack standpoint, the problem around communication protocol, the problem around data integration. And when we're talking about data, it's not just IT data, but it's OT data, operational technology data that we're talking about. Then problems around security. All of these are massive problems if we think about it from an enterprise scale. And that is what is probably slowing down the adoption as much as it should have otherwise been. Having said that, I wouldn't say it is something that will come up in future with much more force. I think it is here already, and even more pronounced over the past 12 to 18 months. Think about smart spaces. Almost every space that we now enter in, our phones allow us to connect to other applications that help us with heat maps, or where there is crowd, where there is not. Those kind of applications are coming up. All of those are working with IoT at the background. Think about smarter supply chains, connected supply chains. Think about smart cities, the lights getting switched on automatically as a car passes through. All of those are very simple use cases, which we may or may not realize have an IoT technology at the back end. And during my presentation, I also mentioned that the services industry in itself, and which does not include the hardware, sensors, platforms, it's just the services industry. In 2019 itself, it was as big as 15 billion. All of that is coming in because enterprises have been investing in IoT. And over the next 3 to 4 years, as the pace of adoption further increases, we expect the services industry alone to grow by as much as 20 to 24%, making it almost as a 40 billion industry. That's a massive, massive number, right? It's not a niche or an emerging technology. It's huge already and only going to grow even more strongly in future.
Excellent. Right. Well, thank you for those views, and I think that should really bring this webinar to an end. I think we have today sort of really discussed the art of the possible, so some brilliant examples of where this is going, but had a fairly factual conversation about the challenges. It is very exciting. We all want it, but it's not going to be without its challenges. So I hope you all found that useful. Huge thanks to all of you for participating and coming along. And obviously a massive thanks to Alicia, Neven and Maxim. Lots of information in the chat, and I'm sure all these guys are available for ongoing comms if you've got any ongoing questions. So have great days, everybody. Thank you all so much. And we'll see you at another GSA event very, very soon. Open Talent Forum tomorrow. If anyone wants to talk about something completely different, that's our next event, talking about the gig economy and open talent. So thank you so much. See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.